If you're over 50 and tired of spending a fortune at the grocery store while your garden somehow produces less every single year, this video is going to change everything. These are 35 real, tested, old-fashioned gardening hacks straight from Grandma's playbook, and most of them cost you absolutely nothing. Eggshell Powder Calcium Boost. Grandma never threw out an eggshell. She saved everyone for the garden. Dry the shells for a day, crush them into a fine powder, and sprinkle a tablespoon into the hole before planting tomatoes, peppers, or squash. The calcium slowly feeds the soil and helps stop rot on the bottom of your fruit. It's free since you're already cracking eggs for breakfast anyway. Just crush the shells fine, or they'll take months to break down. Speaking of kitchen scraps, there's a mushy leftover most people toss that gets turned into liquid plant food next. Banana peel fertilizer tea. Banana peels are full of potassium, and tossing them out means throwing away free plant food. Chop up 2 or 3 peels, drop them in a jar of water, and let them sit for 2 or 3 days. Strain out the peels and pour the liquid at the base of tomatoes, peppers, or other fruiting plants. It helps build stronger blooms and better fruit without buying a bag of fertilizer. Just don't let the peels sit too long or the smell gets strong. Once your flowers are fed, a used coffee habit comes up next that helps acid-loving plants thrive too. Coffee grounds for acid lovers. Every pot of coffee brewed in the morning leaves behind grounds that are too good to waste on plants like blueberries, azaleas, and hydrangeas. Dry the used grounds on a tray for a day, then mix a thin layer into the soil every couple of weeks. The grounds add a touch of acid and a bit of nitrogen as they break down. Don't pile on too much at once, or the soil surface can mat up and block water. It's a simple way to reuse something you're already making every morning. Once your soil's right, an old newspaper trick stops weeds before they start. Newspaper weed barrier. Instead of buying rolls of weed fabric, reach for the stack of old newspapers by the wood stove. Lay 4 to 6 sheets flat over bare soil, overlap the edges, then top with a couple inches of mulch or straw to hold it down. The paper blocks light from weed seeds while still letting water and air pass through. By the end of the season, the paper breaks down and feeds the earth. Skip glossy inserts since the ink and coating don't break down the same way. While your beds stay clear, a couple of old milk jugs can guard your seedlings from a late frost. Milk Jug Mini Greenhouse. And instead of buying cold frames, cut the bottom off an empty milk jug and use it to shield a young seedling. Remove the bottom, leave the cap off for air, and set the jug over the plant like an upside-down bell. It holds in warmth on cold nights while still letting heat escape during the day so the plant doesn't cook. This trick is handy in early spring when frost still threatens young transplants. Just pull the jugs off once nights stay reliably warm. Up next is a bath salt trick that keeps tomatoes strong all season long. Epsom Salt Tomato Boost. Grandma kept a box of Epsom salt in the pantry for more than sore feet. It feeds tomato plants beautifully too. Dissolve a tablespoon into a gallon of water and pour it around the base of tomato plants once a month. The magnesium and sulfur help the plant take in nutrients, leading to greener leaves and better fruit. It's especially helpful if your tomato leaves start turning yellow between the veins. Don't overdo it, since too much can throw off the soil balance. Once your tomatoes are fed, a pinch of pantry spice guards seedlings from a fungus that can kill them overnight. Cinnamon Powder Seedling Guard. Damping off can wipe out a whole tray of seedlings in one night, and the fix sits right in the spice rack. Dust a light layer of ground cinnamon over the soil around young seedlings right after they sprout. Cinnamon fights off the mold behind damping off before it can spread. Reapply lightly after watering, since rain or a heavy pour can wash the layer away. It's an easy guard that costs pennies next to store-bought spray. When weeds creep up along your walkways, there's a pantry staple for that too. Vinegar Walkway Weed Spray. For weeds poking through cracks in the walkway or driveway, a jug of plain white vinegar beats chemical weed killer. Fill a spray bottle with vinegar and spray it right onto the weed leaves on a sunny day. The acid pulls moisture out of the leaves, so they wilt and die within a day or two. It works best on young weeds and may need a second spray for older ones. Grandma keep it off garden soil and good plants since it doesn't tell the difference. Up next, an old drawer full of pantyhose comes in handy when it's time to stake your tomatoes. Pantyhose plant ties. Old, run-ridden pantyhose never got thrown away. They became one of the best plant ties around. Cut the legs into wide strips and loop them gently around tomato stems, peppers, or climbing beans, tying loose to a stake. The stretch supports the plant without cutting into the stem as it grows and sways. It's soft, reusable, and free since you already own a pair with a run in it. Just don't tie too tight, or the strip can dig in. Once your plants are staked, there's a clever way to label every row for free. Wine cork seed markers. Every wine cork that comes through the kitchen gets saved and turned into a simple garden marker. Push a wooden skewer into the bottom of the cork, then write the plant name on top with a marker or a bit of paint. Set them at the start of each row to track what's growing where all season. Corks hold up far better than paper tags in rain and sun, and they never blow away. When the season ends, wipe them clean and use them again next year. A fizzy kitchen trick comes up next that stops mildew from ruining your squash and cucumbers. Baking soda. Mildew spray. Powdery mildew can quietly ruin a patch of squash, zucchini, or cucumbers, and the fix comes straight from the baking aisle. Mix a tablespoon of baking soda with a few drops of dish soap into a gallon of water, then spray it on the leaves once a week. The baking soda raises the surface pH just enough to make it hard for the fungus to spread. Spray early in the morning so the leaves dry before the heat sets in. It won't undo damage already done, but it stops the spread. Once your leaves are safe, a soggy tea bag trick feeds your soil next. Use tea bags in soil. Instead of tossing spent tea bags, bury them right in the garden bed. Let the bags cool, then tuck them a few inches into the soil near lettuce, spinach, or other leafy plants. As the tea breaks down, it feeds the soil with nitrogen and other nutrients. The bag itself breaks down too, so there's nothing to dig back out later. Just check the bag isn't made with plastic mesh, since that won't break down. Once your soil's feeding itself, a fireplace scrap gives your plants a potassium punch next. Wood ash potassium boost. Every time the wood stove gets cleaned out, save the cooled ash for the garden instead of the trash bin. Sprinkle a thin layer around potassium-loving plants like tomatoes, peppers, and roses once or twice a season. The ash carries potassium and calcium that help build strong roots and better blooms. Make sure the ash is fully cool and free of trash before you use it. Don't overdo it, since too much can push the soil pH higher than most crops like. A cardboard tube from the bathroom becomes the perfect place to start seeds next. Toilet paper roll seed starters. Grandma saved empty toilet paper rolls all winter to start her spring seedlings instead of buying trays. Cut each roll in half, stand the pieces up in a tray, and fill with soil before planting a seed or two per tube. When it's time to move the seedling, place the whole cardboard tube right into the ground, roots and all. The tube breaks down naturally, so there's no root shock and no plastic left behind. Just keep the trays moist, since thin cardboard dries out faster than plastic. Once your seedlings start, a fizzy tablet from the medicine cabinet gives them a boost. Aspirin Water Plant Tonic. Long before store-bought plant boosters, a plain aspirin dissolved in a gallon of water gave seedlings a real head start. The acid in aspirin wakes up a plant's own defenses, helping it fight off disease and stress. Water seedlings with the mix every couple of weeks, especially right after moving them when they're most fragile. It's a cheap way to give young plants a fighting chance early on. Just use plain, uncoated aspirin since the coated kind won't dissolve right. A squirt of dish soap handles one of the most common garden pests, and it's up next. Dish soap aphid spray. When aphids swarm the roses or vegetable leaves, the fix sits right by the kitchen sink. Mix a teaspoon of plain dish soap into a quart of water and spray it right onto the leaves, top and bottom. The soap breaks down the bug's outer coating so they dry out and die within a day. Spray again every few days until the bugs clear out and test on one leaf first to be safe. This trick costs almost nothing since it uses soap you already own. Once your pests are gone, a handful of sand makes planting tiny seeds so much easier. Sand-filled seed furrows. Tiny seeds like carrots and lettuce are hard to space evenly, so mix them with dry sand before planting. Combine a small handful of seeds with a cup of sand in a jar, shake well, and sprinkle the mix along your row. The sand adds bulk, so it's easier to spread seeds evenly instead of clumping them by mistake. It also shows you exactly where you've already planted, so you don't plant the same spot twice. This saves you the job of thinning out crowded seedlings later. Aluminum foil plate bird scarers. Instead of buying bird deterrents, Grandma saved old aluminum foil plates left over from dinners and holidays. Punch a small hole near the edge of each plate, then tie it with string to a stake or branch near your berry bushes. As they spin and catch the sun, the flash of light startles birds before they can land and feed. Space them every few feet along your most tempting rows for the best coverage. It's a free way to reuse something that would just end up in the trash. Once your berries are safe from above, a plastic fork fence handles digging pests down below. Plastic fork digging fence. Cats, squirrels, and other critters love to dig in fresh soil, so line your beds with old plastic forks instead of buying mesh fencing. Push the forks tine up into the soil, spacing them a few inches apart around new seeds or seedlings. The sharp prongs put off digging and scratching without hurting any animal that wanders through. It works best right after planting, when loose soil is most tempting. Once your seedlings grow a few true leaves, pull the forks and use them again next season. When it comes to watering delicate seedlings, a few frozen cubes beat any watering can, and that's next. Ice cube trickle watering. Too much water can kill young seedlings just as fast as too little, so ice cubes let it out slow and steady. Set 1 or 2 cubes right on the soil near a delicate seedling or potted plant instead of pouring from a can. As the ice melts, it soaks into the soil at a gentle pace that avoids a sudden flood. This trick works well for houseplants or seed trays where drainage is tight. It also makes it nearly impossible to overwater by accident while you're away for the day. Once your watering's under control, a simple line of chalk stops slugs from ever reaching your lettuce. Chalk line slug barrier. Slugs can wreck a bed of lettuce or hostas overnight, and the fix is as simple as a piece of sidewalk chalk. Draw a thick line of chalk around the base of your plants or around the whole garden bed. The chalk is rough and drying on a slug's soft body, so most won't cross the line at all. Redraw it after rain washes it away, since it stops working once it gets wet. It's a safe, non-toxic option you can use right up until harvest. Once your slugs are handled, a flattened cardboard box makes one of the best mulches around. Cardboard sheet mulch. Instead of buying weed fabric, flatten old delivery boxes and lay them right over garden paths or bare beds. Pull off any tape or glossy labels, overlap the sheets, and top with mulch, straw, or grass clippings to hold them down. The cardboard blocks light from weeds while slowly breaking down and feeding the soil below it. It also holds in moisture during hot months, so you water less often. By next season, most of it will have broken down right into the earth. The next trick uses water left over from boiling pasta to feed your plants in a way you'd never expect. Pasta water plant feed. Instead of pouring starchy pasta water down the drain, let it cool and use it to water your garden beds. The starch feeds good soil bacteria, which in turn helps plant roots take up nutrients more easily. Just make sure the water has no salt in it, since salt can hurt plant roots over time. Let it cool to room temperature first, since hot water will burn tender roots right away. It's an easy way to get a second use out of water. You're already boiling for dinner. Once your soil's fed, an old pair of pantyhose helps brew a stronger fertilizer altogether. Pantyhose compost tea strainer. To make a rich liquid fertilizer, Grandma filled the foot of an old pantyhose leg with finished compost and dropped it into a bucket of water like a giant tea bag. Let it sit for 2 or 3 days, stirring now and then until the water turns dark brown. Pour the liquid around the base of your plants for a quick boost that's gentler than raw compost. The pantyhose holds the solid bits in place, so there's no mess when it's time to pour. Once you're done, the leftover compost can go right back onto the bed. Coming up, a handful of twist ties keeps every row labeled all season. Twist tie garden labels. Every twist tie from a bread bag or produce bundle gets saved to use as a reusable plant label. Wrap a tie around a small stick, then write the plant name right on the tie with a marker. Because the ties bend, you can move or reuse them season after season without buying a single marker. They're small enough to stay out of the way, but sturdy enough to survive wind and rain all summer. It's a clever way to get one more use out of something most people throw straight in the trash. Next is a trick that turns an old ladder into the perfect trellis for climbing beans. Old ladder bean trellis. Instead of buying a trellis kit, Lean an old wooden ladder against a fence or stand it up like an A-frame in the bed. The rungs give climbing plants like beans, peas, and cucumbers plenty to grip as they climb. It also makes picking much easier since the fruit hangs at a good height instead of sprawling on the ground. A ladder with some rust or a missing rung still works just fine for this job. Just anchor it well so it doesn't tip once the plants get heavy. Once your beans are climbing, an old bucket can grow you a whole tower of potatoes. Bucket potato tower. Instead of buying grow bags, an old 5-gallon bucket with a few holes drilled in the bottom grows potatoes just fine. Add a few inches of soil, set in your seed potatoes, and as the plant grows, keep piling on more soil to bury the stem, leaving the top leaves out. This makes the plant grow potatoes all along the buried stem, not just at the bottom. When it's time to harvest, Grandma would tip the bucket over and sift through the soil for a big haul. It's great for anyone short on space or stuck with poor soil. Just wait, because a pile of pine cones fixes a drainage problem most people overpay to solve: pine cone pot drainage. Before filling a planter with pricey potting mix, layer the bottom with dried pine cones instead of buying bags of gravel. The odd shapes leave air pockets that let extra water drain away from the roots, which stops rot before it starts. Pine cones are also much lighter than gravel, so heavy pots are easier to move around the porch. They're free for the taking on a fall walk and can be reused for years before they break down. Just make sure they're fully dry before you layer them in. Once your pots drain well, water left over from cooking rice becomes another free feed for your plants. Rice water feeding. Grandma never wasted the cloudy water left over from rinsing or boiling rice. It went straight to the garden. Let the rice water cool, then pour it around the base of leafy plants and houseplants once or twice a week. The starch and small nutrients left behind feed good soil bacteria, which helps plants take in what they need. It's especially useful for potted plants that don't have much soil to work with. Just make sure there's no salt or seasoning mixed in, since that can hurt the roots. Coming in next, a used coffee filter solves a drainage problem in a way most people never think of. Coffee filter pot liner. A used paper coffee filter tucked in the bottom of a plant pot solves what most people fix by buying pot liners. Set one filter, wet or dry, over the drainage hole before you add soil to the pot. It stops soil from washing through the hole while still letting water drain out freely. This trick works great for small pots with wide holes where soil tends to spill out with every watering. Just swap the filter once a season since it breaks down slowly over time. Up next, an orange peel scattered near the flowers keeps one common visitor away for good. Orange peel, cat repellent. Cats digging up a fresh bed is one of the most annoying garden problems, and the fix is sitting in your fruit bowl. Scatter fresh or dried orange peels around beds where cats like to dig, or use the soil as a litter box. The strong citrus smell bothers a cat's nose enough to send them elsewhere without any harm done. Swap the peels out every week or so, since the smell fades fast, especially after rain. It's a free trick using scraps from fruit most homes already eat often. Up next, a burnt matchstick clears out a tiny pest most people don't even know is living in their houseplants. Matchstick fungus, gnat fix. Fungus gnats buzzing around houseplants are a sign the soil is staying too wet, and a burnt matchstick fixes it fast. Push 2 or 3 spent matches, sulfur end down, into the soil near the base of the plant. As you water, the sulfur seeps into the soil and kills off the young gnats living just under the surface without harming the plant. Swap the matches every couple weeks until the gnats are gone for good. It's a nearly free fix using something most kitchen drawers already have. Just 3 tricks left, starting with an old nail that fixes a problem most gardeners never even notice. Rusty nail iron boost. Grandma never threw away a rusty old nail because it had one more job left to do underground. Bury 3 or 4 rusty nails a few inches deep near iron-loving plants like tomatoes, spinach, and roses, and leave them be for the season. As the nails rust in the damp soil, they release small bits of iron that help fix yellow leaves caused by low iron. It's a fix that lasts for years since the same nails keep working long after you bury them. Just don't dig too close to the roots when you bury them. With 2 tricks left, a ring of crushed eggshells keeps slugs from ever reaching your seedlings. Eggshell ring slug barrier. Save your crushed eggshells for one more job besides feeding calcium into the soil. Use them as a wall against slugs and snails. Crush dry shells into small, sharp pieces and sprinkle a thick ring around plants like hostas, lettuce, and strawberries. The sharp edges are rough on a slug's soft body, so most turn back rather than cross. Redo the ring after heavy rain washes it away or breaks it down. It's a 2-in-1 trick, since the shells also feed calcium into the soil as they break down. The very last trick uses one final scrap that stops root rot before it starts. Crushed charcoal root rot guard. Leftover charcoal from the fire pit or grill was never wasted in Grandma's garden. It became one of her go-to tools against root rot. Crush cooled charcoal into small pieces and mix it into potting soil or line the bottom of a planter before adding soil on top. Charcoal soaks up extra moisture and filters out impurities, keeping roots drier in pots that tend to stay soggy. It also fights off the mold that causes root rot in the first place. Just be sure to use plain wood charcoal, never briquettes with lighter fluid or added chemicals. If today's list saved you a trip to the garden center, stick around, because there's plenty more old-fashioned wisdom where that came from.